What's good, YouTube? Here to bring you my Subterror deck that I recently built. With the release of the new solo gate that released for this archetype, introducing a new card, I'm going to be bringing you a deck that I came up with it. Just want to start off by going over the new card, which is not the Hidden City, sorry, the Terrors in the Hidden City. Now, the first effect is your opponent cannot target face-down defense position monsters you control with card effects. That effect is really not that great. It's not really up to use. Literally, a lot of like card effects in this current meta like don't really target like that, and it's just like protection that can come up very occasionally, but it's not like the greatest thing ever, because if they can't target your face down defense position monsters, which are currently holding no threat because it's not like they floodgate you or anything, they'll just target your back row, which is basically kind of like what our deck is going to be. So yeah, that first effect is really not that great. Now the second effect, just a heads up, is probably the best effect, which is monsters you control that were flipped face up with this card was face up, while this card was face up, sorry, on the field gain 1500 attack and defense. This surprisingly is actually probably the best effect out of the card, because 1500 attack and defense is actually pretty big. It can get your Subterror Guru up to 3100 attack and 3300 defense, which is actually quite formidable. It actually does come up, and you'll see in the future replays, it comes up against the tier limits, because tier limits, like one of the best ways to remove them is actually by destroying them in battle. I'm sorry, well, probably the best way is banishing them, but destroying them by battle is probably like not a bad option because it doesn't trigger any of their effects. So yeah, this actually like gives them a hard time getting over the Subterror Guru. So yeah, this effect is actually quite nice. Unfortunately, it's just slow because it's only on monsters that are flipped face up. So yeah, but it helps with battle protection, because what's nice is it does activate when an opponent's monsters attacks into your set monsters. So yeah, it's just overall honestly probably the best effect on this card. The next thing is if this card in the owner's spell and trap zone is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can target one monster in your graveyard, special summon in face down defense position. Again, not a great card. It kind of sucks that it's literally has to be destroyed by an opponent's card effect, because if your opponent could just simply read the card, they'll make sure not to destroy it. And again, in this current format with the tier limits, they don't destroy any of your spell and trap, they actually shuffle them away. So this effect is pretty much useless, not really that well. On top of that, you need to have a monster in the grave. Like, it really doesn't help the strategy in general, like trying to push like what they're trying to do, which is basically control the field. Again, just the best effect is the 1500 attack and defense boost. Now, with that being said, also before I get into that, another thing that kind of bothers me about this Terrors in the Hidden City is it does not have Subterror in its name. That means it's not searchable by Subterror Guru, and also it doesn't help activate Subterror Guru's other effect of quick effect setting on an opponent's monster. So yeah, just like that, like this card it has a lot of going against it, and for that reason, even though I'm going to be showing you this deck list in case like someone wants to see what a deck with this card can do, I would not recommend like running more than one copy of Terrors in the Hidden City. Now, with that all being said, let's get into the deck list. Now, first we got 2 DD Crows. This is specifically for the tier limit matchup, because DD crowing their tier limit monsters in the grave stops their play, so that's good for that. Next we got Subterror Phoenix. This is actually an kind of Omni negate without the destruction effect attached to it. It just basically negates any one effect that your opponent uses while you control a Subterror monster that's face up. The targets being Subterror Phoenix, Nemesis Archer, the Guru, and the Behemoth. That's probably like the better effect. Unfortunately, it only works when they're face up, so you kind of have to be conscious of like what position you're leaving your Subterror monsters up in. And its other effect is not too bad, only because we get to utilize it with our Behemoth, is if you can set one of your other face-up monsters, and you can special summon a Subterror monster from your hand or graveyard. So if you have the Behemoth in your hand, Phoenix allows you to special summon it just by setting another card. And yeah, that's pretty much it for that. Next, we got 3 Maxis. This is best hand trap in the game. You always want to run this in every deck almost. Next is Subterror Nemesis Archer. This I really run. Its first effect is basically shuffling a face down defense position monster your opponent controls if you control another Subterror monster, which is not that great, honestly. I mean, it kind of comes up occasionally, but It's kind of like a win more type of effects because really you already have to be controlling the board more to really utilize this effect. But we really run two for its second effect, where if this card is destroyed by battle or card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon one Subterror monster from your deck and face up or face down defense position, which is great because that's when you can get easier copies either to Guru, or if we already have Guru on the field and we just want to extend or have a little more board presence, we can get the Behemoth, and that is just one of the card. That's probably the best Behemoth card, like in the archetype. Next we got 3 Ash Blossoms, second best hand trap. We want to utilize this in every deck. Next we got Subterror Guru, which is the best the best card in the archetype, because this basically allows you to search any Subterror card from your deck and add it to your hand, except Subterror Guru. Unfortunately, like we mentioned before, it can't search the terrors in the Hidden City, and unfortunately it can't search the field spell, the Hidden City. So it's not that great, but it's still the best card, unfortunately, for the archetype. Also, this card can set your opponent's monster by flipping this card face down and flipping whatever you targeted. And it's actually a quick effect if you control another Subterror card, which is quite nice. It's really nice because it combos well with their trap card that I'll get into a little later. Next, we got the Subterror Behemoth Umastrix. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation of that card, but I'm just going to call it the Behemoth. This just has the flip effect of you can target one monster your opponent controls, banish it. Pretty helpful, very nice, especially in Tearlaments, because when the Tearlaments cards get banished, you don't get to activate their effects. So that's great on that end. Really helps with just clearing boards like that. Also, 2000 attack, not great, but not bad, and it's really not bad because of the trap card that really utilizes both their attack and defense. Next, we got Lord of the Heavenly Prison. This card basically is great with all trap cards based decks, because when a trap card is flipped face up, you get to activate this card, special summon it, and then you get to set another spell or trap. Also protects your trap cards while it's revealed. So yeah, that's just a great card to have in any control-based deck you currently control. Also, something I want to mention with the Behemoth Umastrix is actually when one of your Subterror monsters, I'm sorry, it's just a monster, when it's flipped face down and you control no other face-up monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand in defense position. Unfortunately, it doesn't special summon in face-down defense position. That would be a lot better, but it's something, we can get it on the field a little more easier, because trust me, if it had this level without that effect, this card would be completely useless. So yeah, with that being said, well, that's another reason why we run the Behemoth. Next, we got one Harpy's Feather Duster. This is for back row. It's still pretty useful, especially in Tearlaments. Not the greatest against Tearlaments, but it helps getting rid of like their Omni Negates or like their field spell, because yeah, we definitely need to clear the board when we utilize this deck. Next, we got Terraforming to get into the field spell, which is very much needed in this deck, because this deck can't really perform much without Subterror Guru or the field spell. Next, we got Pot of Extravagance. This is because we don't really get to utilize our extra deck, so it just helps with the free draws, helps us control the board, keep our card economy well above our opponents. Next, we got Pot of Prosperity. Again, we don't use our extra deck, and on top of that, like, we just want to get to our 2 best cards in the deck as quickly as possible, because once we get that going, then we can really start dueling. Next is the Hidden City Field Spell. This is by far like what the archetype revolves around, because it being a flip deck, it makes it a little too slow to really compete with a lot of faster decks. And this card allows you to, on activation, add a Subterror card, and then once per turn you can change one face down defense position Subterror monster you control to face up attack or defense position. So basically you would activate this card, search Subterror Guru, set that card, use the second effect of Hidden City to flip it up, and then you can search any of your other Subterror card, which most likely would be Phoenix or whatever else you don't have in hand. And yeah, that just helps get your plays going. And then Subterror Guru can probably set itself, or maybe search out its trap card and that will set itself, and then it just adds to a lot more plays that you can really go into. And then the third effect, and this is very nice, this is always known when you have a good card, minus the next card, is when you have 3 effects attached to it, is the third effect is you can change one face, once an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can change one face down defense position Subterror monster you control to face up attack or defense position, then you can negate the attack. Very great. It does come up because sometimes like your opponent just has so many monsters, since their decks are a lot faster than ours, especially in this meta, that you just want to negate one of theirs, and then you can protect yourself with your other either traps to get over the battle phase and have your monsters survive. So yeah, that's just a great card. Hidden City, great card all around, run 3. Next, Terrors in the Hidden City. Like I mentioned before in the beginning with my review of the card, I would at most run 1 copy of this card. Again, it's really mostly for the gaining a 1500 attack and defense. I guess the first effect can kind of come up, maybe the third effect as well, if like, you know, you just have like your opponent's Heartpiece Feather Duster, even though that's not that great right now in the meta. You know, it might come up. But yeah, I'm just really running 3 right now just to showcase and get as quickly as possible to showcase like what the card can do, especially in my replays. Next, we got 2 Called by the Graves. This is basically necessary for all of your decks as well, because it just basically gets rid of your opponent's hand traps. Also nice against tier limits because all their effects activate in the grave, so you just want it for that reason as well. Next we got Subterror Final Battle. This is a very nice card and actually something you might want to search if you already have Phoenix in hand, or if you have this card in hand you would search Phoenix off of Subterror Guru. But Subterror Final Battle is great because it has 4 effects, 4 that are all, well, I want to say 3 out of the 4, which are really helpful, which is the first one being change 1 set Subterror monster on your field to face up attack or defense position. This helps speeds up your deck because you can activate your flip effects a lot faster. Next one being change 1 face up Subterror monster on the field to face down defense position. Again, if like your monster's already face up and you want to flip it face down. Unfortunately, what I found out too is this doesn't activate the effect of the Subterror Behemoth because it like misses timing, I want to say, because I do realize it's a 1 effect. I just want to keep that noted because that's something that kind of holds this deck back. And if they make another Behemoth card, I really wish instead of making it a when, they make it an if effect, because I'm pretty sure that would be able to trigger their effects to special summon themselves from the hand. Next, we have the third effect, which is the attack and defense of 1 Subterror monster on the field becomes equal to its combined original attack and defense until the end of this turn. That's great. Gets our Guru to 3400. Gets our Phoenix to, I'm sorry, not Phoenix. It's the Archer to 3000 attack. And then finally, in our biggest one, is going to be the Subterror Behemoth, which gets it to 4,700 attack. Great card. Honestly, that third effect is kind of underrated in my opinion because you can really get over some big monsters with that effect. And the final effect that might occasionally come up if like the imperm you and you just really need to search off for your Subterror Guru, you can activate the fourth effect, which is basically this turn activated effects of Subterror cards cannot be negated. So yeah, overall great card. And what's very neat about this card as well is if you activate this while you have a face-up Subterror Guru, while you activate it, Subterror Guru can actually activate its quick effect of, since you control another Subterror card, even though it's gonna, you know, only be flip face up for its activation, it can quick effect set one of your opponent's monsters. So that's kind of great interruptions. You know, you can, if your Subterror Guru is face down, you can flip this card to flip it face up, get its effect to search, and then you can activate its quick effect to set one of your opponent's monsters. So yeah, overall great card. Also, the last effect, what keeps this card really great as well, is after you activate any one of its effect, instead of sending it to the graveyard, you set it face down again so you can use it for the next turn. So yeah, great card, running that too. Next card is Infinite Impermanence. This is just to negate any of your opponent's monsters. We want to have some interruption while we go second. Next is Solemn Judgment. This is just a necessity for any control-based deck. Then unfortunately we do have to run these Floodgates, but gracefully the Subterrors can run them pretty nicely because these Floodgates don't really affect them as much as they affect other meta decks. Goza Match is great against Flaunderies. I also want to say tier limits to some extent, and probably some other decks I can't think of at the top of my head. But yeah, Goza Match works. I think what's better in this format is Soul Drain, because I feel like the 2 decks, especially for me, that I've been facing is Flaunderies. Outside of tier limits, Soul Drain just kills both of those decks because you can't, you basically negate any, or your opponent's monsters can't activate their effects that are activated in the graveyard or that are banished. So yeah, that completely kills both of those decks. It's basically a skill drain for the graveyard and the banish zone. So yeah, that's pretty much all for the main deck list. The rest of the deck, the extra deck is really not necessary. I mean, only thing to really note is if you have 2 level 4s, we have like the Zodiac package, the Zodiac package to go into Zeus. The links really don't matter that much, honestly. If it comes up, it comes up, but you're really just having this for fodder for your pot cards. That's it for the deck list, and now we're going to move on to the deck replays. All right, so going on to our replays, for our first replay, we're going to see that we're going against tier limit Shizu, and let's just get right into the replay. Right, so here we can see that we're going second. Unfortunately, we didn't draw too good of a hand. Hopefully, Maxi is going to be able to kind of help us out here. Deactivate the King of the Swamp to get the polymerization. Activate polymerization. Probably going to go into the tier limit Kalos. We're going to Maxi right here to get our draw for that. Speed this up a little bit. They send both tier limits cards. These two cards right here. Kikalos are going to activate. He's going to activate his other tier limit cards to really shuffle everything back to special summon another fusion monster. This is drawing us our cards. We got Terraforming, which is nice. Pot of Extravagance, nice. Hidden Seeding, which is kind of a little redundant because we already have Terraforming. He ends the board with just the Predator Plant fusion monster and the tier limit Rolkalos. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. But yeah, then we get to draw, and surprisingly, I want to say that Terrors of the Hidden City actually kind of saved this hand because we weren't really able to get over that. Because we're going to see shortly that when I activate my Pot of Extravagance, this is going to get negated by his counter trap. So right here, Terrors of the Cities actually came up, specifically with its second effect, which you're about to see shortly. Because we're going to activate Terraforming to see if we can bait out anything else. Don't know if he could with some whatever his face down is. Hidden City, get the Subterror Guru. Terrors of the Hidden, we're going to activate Hidden City to flip our Guru. He's going to negate the effect because it does have a flip effect, which doesn't matter. We just wanted the attack boost, and here we're going to see the 3100 attack is just 100 over to get over his fusion monster. So we're going to crash into that. He doesn't get to activate any of the effects because it is when it's destroyed by battle, it doesn't get to activate it like that. We try to use the other effect to flip it face down, but unfortunately, what's kind of strong about this Predator Plant Fusion monster is the counters are permanent. So as long as this card is face up, both cards are face up, they're gonna have the counter. It's gonna have its effects negated. Very unfortunately, they had the tier limit Rhino Heart they drew into, and they're gonna probably go for another fusion play. But thankfully, we have Call by the Grave. But he had the Majoro. But this is where it's going to come up where the Phoenix is going to be able to set our monster, which is great because we're going to allow to get another effect off of that, and we get to negate the Majoro effect. Have this tier limit card have its effects negated till next turn because of Call by the Grave. And they're just going to see right there, they're not going to be able to get over Guru with the Terrors of the Hidden City. So yeah, just like right there, you're going to see why the second effect of the 1500 defense, attack, and defense boost is just enough to sometimes win you games. All right, so for our next replay, we again have tier limits, a Shizu deck. So yeah, let's just get right into the game. So here we get to go first. Again, we drew into Terrors in the Hidden City. We get to activate the field spell, get to search out the Phoenix. I would say this deck is, this hand is pretty good. We get to activate all those effects, kind of search out some stuff. But unfortunately, we have the Havness here. Now, I was gonna negate this with Venus, but the reason I didn't was actually because there's a possibility that they can miss with their mills. Because I feel like the Shizu cards are more important to mill since they mill 5, which is just crazy. I don't know why they made it 5 cards to be milled. But off of 3, it's a possibility that they don't really draw into anything, so I just let it be. Hopefully the chance was on my side, but unfortunately it wasn't because they milled in a tier limit card and they milled the Yugioh, which again mills the 5. So we're gonna see right here that they're gonna chain it in a way where the Yugioh is gonna be the last thing to resolve. So I'm gonna be able to negate that with Phoenix because we really don't want them to go off by milling a lot of more cards to fusion summon a lot more. I'd rather them have the Kalos. Right, so we're gonna see here Kalos. Even though I say all that, Kikalos is still going to be able to have them extend a lot more. As we're going to see right here, they're going to go into, surprisingly, Millennia Eyes Restrict, which is still not a bad card because they can negate basically like my Phoenix if I activate it next time, because this card can absorb any effect monster from the fields or grave. So that I could see why he went into that. Not looking good because it's a dark type. We have Gozen Match. It's not great. We just set the rest of our hand and then pass our turn. Right, so they're going to activate tier limit screen. They're going to do Foolish Barrier Good, which is currently at 1 right now. Of course, they drew into that. Going to be able to draw. We're going to imperm the tier limit Kikalos because we don't want him to extend further with that effect of what like that second effect that it does. Here they activate the Rhino Heart. I'm not sure if this is really a misplay. I activate Goes and Match here because I just at least wanted them to waste a normal summon. So I activated when they activated the Water Rhino Heart, the Water attribute. But they're still going to be able to go into Kaleido. Again, probably butchering the pronunciation. Kaleido Heart, which is quite annoying. They're going to shuffle back the Subterror Final Battle. I'm going to activate the effects can be negated in case he attacks into it and he has some type of negation, like with the Millennium Eyes Restrict. The past turn, I'm pretty sure because they found out, like, or they realized they read the card that it's not going to be able to get over it. And this is what I mean, where, like, it's very useful that they, like, the 1500 defense is just enough that they can't really get over it. I'm gonna have to pass turn because if I flip this face up, it's probably gonna. I want to activate the effect, but I drew the Subterror Final Battle, so I feel like I can wait one more turn and probably push right after that. Because if I activate its effect, it's gonna get negated and absorbed by the Millennial Eyes. Right, so then they draw. For some reason, they go into battle phase. I'm assuming because they want to see if they can probably negate and absorb the attack. And I use the final battle attack and defense boost to actually see, and this is hopefully educational for you guys to know as well. Like, it only boosts the original attack and defense, so it's still going to go up to 3400. Unfortunately, it doesn't count the 1500 defense boost that it gets from the Hidden City. We're going to search Phoenix from that. They take the damage. Draw into Imperm. I'm gonna flip it to switch it to attack position, and this is what's great. Again, because they don't have their field spell, which because tier limits really cap out at 3000 attack, so that's why the terrors in the Hidden City is good because you're able to get to that 3100 threshold. That's just enough to get over a lot of their tier limit monsters. Again, without their field spell, because thankfully they didn't have their field spell. So yeah, I'm able to attack over it, but then they have the Forbidden Droplet, which is gonna have the attack of this. Thankfully, and this is where Subterror Final Battle comes in clutch, because of its third effect of boosting it during the damage calculations, we're able to get it back to 3400. Gonna attack that. That tier limit card is not gonna be able to use this effect because it's destroyed by battle. And we're gonna set the Imperm right here to try to negate tier limit screen if they're able to top deck a tier limit card. And unfortunately they do, but that's again why we had the Imperm. We're going to negate that to make sure they don't get any of the other plays. And right there, they're going to see they don't have anything to really get over the 3100 attack. So right there, they just forfeit. And that right there is why you can see that Terrors in the Hidden City is pretty decent only because of the 1500 attack and defense. I say pretty decent. I'm going to change my mind real quick. It's pretty bad, but the only redeeming quality about it is the 1500 attack gain and defense. But yeah, with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.